Ready? Righteous speakers and preachers telling me not to drink and smoke while they sniffing coke, asking me if they could buy a Vogue. Like, you really asking me for a loose and a sip of my goose? I went to church to bear my sin, but I was bearing skin, seducing you from the pulpit, distracting you from your message. Now you offering me counseling because by your own personal accounting, this is the perfect financial equation for me to pay for my salvation. Advocate talking about awareness because despair is the new norm, so you diligently work to establish a forum when you can't even establish a quorum, can't even get the masses assembled, but our abusers, aka protectors, can still make us tremble, fill us with trepidations of them raping our sons, who are only guilty of being our sons, only guilty of being the ones who were born into the mayhem of a fatherless home, only guilty of loving a mother who wants to be left alone, only guilty of seeking love in the streets, only guilty of being deceived by the glitz and glamour of material possessions, only guilty of being touched on their no-no parts when we sent them to confession. Only guilty of being directionless because we, once the future, now the present, have misled them. Only guilty of continuing the cycle because we don't turn to our Bibles. Only guilty of miseducation because instead of learning about our sexual partners, we hastily procreate with them. Only guilty of being our sons and our daughters who are out of order because they are guilty of trying to be like mommy who's sleeping with Tommy.
That's Miss Neighbor Lady's husband. And Miss Neighbor Lady got a bun in the oven. That's not even Uncle Tommy's, but his brother Johnny's,
because Miss Neighbor Lady was guilty too. She was a daughter that was out of order because her first lover was her mother's brother. Guilty because in her case, mama wasn't there and daddy was unaware. Guilty of being raised by men who only wanted to bend over lost little girls much like her. Guilty of being a tease because she thought it would please her daddy and all of his mans. His right hand being her mother's brother, her first lover. She was guilty. And she still is. But now, it's her kids who will be guilty. But back to the other daughters who are out of order and out of sorts and in and out of courts for housing, public assistance, and child support. Yes, back to they who are guilty of raising themselves because they're guilty of parents have put them on shelves and left them to their own devices. Suffice it to say that when they did dream, they had hope for a better day and might have overheard somebody tell them to pray or teach them to say, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." Of course, they didn't get too much further because they already preferred the touch of the deacon man who was laying hands on her sisters, and them, and her little brother Sam. Guilty of buying into a mentality that was dynamically instituted so that hope would be uprooted, buying into a mentality where no truth is viable or valuable. Buying into a mentality sold by victims of broken dreams, broken homes, and broken hearts, sold by the hypocritical elite, the righteous speakers, the preachers, the teachers, the leaders. They got mentality for sale.